I know you guys have been asking about this for a while, and I'm super excited to announce I've finally done it. I've combed over and rewatched every single episode so that I can finally give a fair and honest long-form video retrospective on the show that you all wanted me to cover from front to back. That's right! It's time to make a retrospective on the long-running show, Legends of Chima! Yeah, you remember Legends of Chima, right guys? You know, Lavelle, Kreger, Eris, the Dame de Deluge? No? Why are some of you staring at me like that? Yeah, Legends of Chima didn't get that much hype when it was first being unveiled. I'm sure you all know the story, but for those of you too young to remember, Ninjago was supposed to last 2 seasons as it was supposed to end with the final battle. However, despite the final battle being called the final battle, this didn't seem to go through very many people's heads, as I guess Ninjago garnered a lot more reputation than LEGO was expecting. So Ninjago ended right at episode 26 as was always planned. But for some reason, people always thought that Ninjago was cancelled. That was always weird to me. Every time I heard people talking about Ninjago's finale, they always said Ninjago was cancelled. They never said it ended or was completed. They just always assumed that it was cancelled. I never really understood that personally, because even as a kid, when I saw the final battle, I always knew that was the complete story. Sure, I wish there was more, and I still consider it weird that it was supposed to only go on for that long, but I never considered that there was supposed to be more to the show, but LEGO pulled the plug for whatever reason. And again, it was literally called The Final Battle. But either way, immediately after Ninjago's cancellation, LEGO was pretty quick to announce Ninjago's replacement, a pretty interesting looking show that revolved around anthropomorphic animals called Legends of Chima. Unfortunately, the show only lasted for 2 seasons, but even though the show didn't gain an interest when it first launched, a lot of people do still have a huge nostalgic connection to the series. Honestly, more than something like Nexo Knights or the current fan base of Dream. But if you know anything about Ninjago and Chima, you know that Chima is still relevant in everyday conversation. As what was I think meant to be just a simple joke or Easter egg, in Season 5, Chima was canonized to be a part of the other realms of the Ninjago world, and now is actually a part of the Ninjago world thanks to the merge combining all of the realms. But as of this recording, there's no mention of Chima, other than Roz's reconfirming that Chima was a part of the merge in Season 2 because he is from it. Plus further confirmations and teasing from the production that Chima is a part of the realm of the wildness. But as of the writing of this video, actual confirmation of when we'll be able to see Chima is currently unknown. So before we get to that point, I thought it'd be fun to go back and take a look at Chima. Let's see if it was worth anything to begin with, and whether Ninjago should have just retconned it and left it in the past of LEGO's obscurity. Or maybe Chima did actually have something and was just a victim of jealous Ninjago fans all along. So grab a drink, get all comfy in a blanket, because you're going to watch this whole video all the way through in one session. Let's be honest, we always say we're going to start long form videos and then finish them later, but 9 times out of 10, we always get locked in and watch the whole thing. So let's take a look at The Legends of Chima. The series opens with a female bird flying through the air when she easily gets captured. From the creators of Ninjago! Anyway, this is where we meet our antagonist Kreger, who alongside the crocodiles, wolves, and ravens is marching along to the Lion Temple. There we meet our very relatable protagonist, who's running late for his Age of Becoming ceremony because he forgot where his harness is and gets distracted by a dummy. And the fighting mannequin. During the ceremony, the crocodiles attack and stop Lavelle from placing the chi into his chest. He gives chase and realizes that it's Kreger? I don't know who Kreger is yet! Well, thank goodness this is a flashback episode. And I think this episode kind of shows a big positive with Chima, but also a big problem that people also have with Chima. Because you see, a big positive with this show, I think, is the relationship between Lavelle and Kreger, who are definitely just friends. definitely. It's not the greatest in these 2 episodes as it's a little formulaic, and the pacing just kinda speeds up. And because of that, it's no Orion Pax and D16 from Transformers 1, but I feel like there is kind of enough here to make you go, hey, these guys are friends! Sure, it would be a shame if Kragger broke the rules and used a Chi Orb before his age had become— oh no, drama. Oh, I don't know if I can handle. So Lavelle succumbs to peer pressure. He and Kragger go see the sacred pool where this powerful Chi is held, and you're not supposed to use it before the age of becoming. Kragger, of course, does it anyway, and cheese up and goes absolutely crazy. He hits himself up against the wall, and he gets shot. Then Lavelle's dad, the king of the Lion tribe, starts reprimanding Lavelle for going with Kragger, and goes all preachy and is all like, sometimes you just gotta ask yourself, is this the right thing to do? What is this, Sesame Street? I'm not here to learn morals. So Father LaGravis sends for Kragger's parents.
Nobody lasts and chains my son!
Why did the towel make that sound? And it's here we learn that the Crocs and Lions have a bit of an implied rivalry with them, with Crominus and Krunket blaming the Lions for Kragger's pre-Chi espionage. Though it's just strange because while it does imply a rivalry, it doesn't really give us a reason why. And spoilers for later, but there's technically a very small reason that gets shown later, but I don't even think that justifies it. The way that the Lions and Crocs interact with each other in these episodes implies that there is tension between them, not only in this scene, but later with Kragger sending a Croc flare, and it not taking much for them to instantly attack each other. I feel like there should be more here, but there just isn't. This makes even less sense once we get to that point. After Kragger takes a second trip to the Chi pool without Lavelle this time, Kragger starts to have some sort of realization of his actions. But once the battle between the Crocs and Lions causes Kragger's parents to come face to face with the Gorge of Eternal Depth, LaGravis attempts to pull them out, but Kragger cuts the line for some reason, and that makes them fall into the gorge. I just don't understand what causes Kragger to do this, as the episode doesn't try to imply that Kragger had a natural distrust of the Lion tribe, as literally Lavelle, his best friend, tells him that they'll be fine. And I think this could have been easily fixed with a little bit of tweaking to the narrative. Like I said, the Lions and Crocs do have an implied rivalry between each other, so why not expand upon that? Which could also set up the series indefinitely. Why not give an actual reason why the Lions and Crocodiles don't get along? Maybe have it so where the Crocodiles hate the Lions because they have the control over the Chi, which they feel is unjust, and because of that, Kragger's parents teach Kragger that the Lions are unjust dictators or something. Kragger doesn't even have to agree, so he can have his friendship with Lavelle, but then this moment is where he has to put his faith in the Lions to save his parents. Something in him snaps and makes him make a split-second decision that ultimately sends his parents down to the gorge. Not only do I feel that it gives this scene additional context that makes it make sense, but I think it makes for a far more interesting narrative and sets up the battle that's yet to come. Because for now, it feels like the only reason why the animals fight each other is because of a completely avoidable dumb misunderstanding and an ugly plant. It just makes it weird because of all the marketing and commercials for the Chima series markets the idea that the animals are fighting each other to take control of the Chi, but it's like, they kind of don't do that. Not until way later, and even then, that's not even the Crocs, it's just the wolves, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. It doesn't even feel like a fight for the Chi. It feels like a fight for revenge for something completely avoidable, which kind of makes the fight between Lions and Crocs weak and much less interesting. What makes it kind of worse though is that this fight isn't even Kragger's. It's his sister Crueler, who uses some mind-controlling plant that she uses to make Kragger fight the Lions. So we have a war between these animals that has kind of a weak setup and a motivation, and is not even Kragger's fight, but rather his mind-controlling sister. That's kinda bland. I will say though, as much as this plot is kind of flimsy, sometimes I tend to forget about how flimsy it is, because I'm drooling over this animation. You can say a lot of things about Chima, both positively and negatively, but one thing I think every single person can agree on is that the show looks beautiful. Unlike Ninjago, Chima was animated by M2 Entertainment, and wow, they knocked it out of the park in terms of environments. Ninjago had a very simplistic animation style in terms of its environments, which is completely fine, but when you compare it back to Chima, Chima is 1000% the better looking show. It's not even close. The lighting and the general art direction for the show work together to create a rich environment with vibrant colors, excellent looking terrain, and even gorgeous water. Someone go put that on Miiverse. I also really like a lot of the camera work this show goes for as well. There's a lot of fun camera movements which makes the action much more exciting to watch. Sometimes it can be a little cheap, but even moments that look a little unpolished are still fun to look at. I even like the designs of the characters, though it can be a bit of a hit or miss. They did the best they could given the fact that they had to make a Lego minifigure kinda sorta look like the animal they're trying to portray. I think they toe the line well enough. There's definitely more I want to get into the animation later, but I just kind of want to throw some general positivity before I move on to the summary for the second episode. The second episode takes place a little bit after the first, with Legravis asking Lavelle if he's heard anything from Krager, who is now the king of the crocodiles after that night. Legravis somehow uses this as an opportunity to absolutely shove in the exposition of the origin of the whole Chima realm.
Uh-oh. I feel the great story coming on again.
We weren't always the advanced and sophisticated creatures we are now.
So Legravis tells this great story about how these animals found some water flowing out of a mountain and evolves them to anthropomorphic animals, with some animals known as the legend beasts choosing not to drink the water because they wanted to remain simple and pure, not burdened with the epic knowledge of gay sex. But our super cool angsty protagonist thinks the story is mad boring because it doesn't have enough action. Bro, a mountain ripped out of the earth, what more excitement could you want? But I think Lego was bored with this too, because they said it's time to sell some Lego sets, baby. Time to get introduced to the big new gimmick of this show. While Ninjago had these Blade ripoffs as its gimmick, modeled after Spinjitzu, Legends of Chima has these speedor races for Golden Chi, as once a month, Mount Kavora creates a super powerful Golden Chi that can change the terrain. The speedors are kind of a cool gimmick. I actually had a few of them as a kid, the Lennox one and the King Crominus one. Each of them came with collectible cards, which are kind of neat. You pretentious Pokemon fans and your Charizards, but have you ever laid eyes on the Grandorius weapon card or this Thundax weapon card? I didn't think so, idiot. The Speedors looked awesome. They look better in the show, I mean, obviously that's a given, but some of the molds they had going on for them still looked really awesome. The big negative I remember though was that you always had to sit your character down in the Speedor, which not only looked kinda weird, but to take your character on and off, you had to lift the whole Speedor model off, which wasn't as graceful as you would think. It required a decent amount of force to pull it off, and because of the nature of the molds, you couldn't get a good grip on it. Thankfully, when Season 2 came around, they made the Speedors better, as they made a better mold that locked the character in with the piece of plastic that goes in between their feet, and it didn't require taking the whole thing apart to use it. But hey, whoa, this is spoilers we're looking at, get out of here! After the Speedor race, and after Lavelle and Krager fight for a little bit, Krager stages an uprising with the wolves and ravens to fight the lions on Lavelle's Age of Becoming ceremony. And then we meet back up where we started.
Today is not the day to do this.
Today is the day we do this!
Krager throws Lavelle into a river, and because cats can't swim, it's equivalent to a death sentence until the lion legend beast shows up and dishes him out, and yeah, I never really vibed with how the lion legend beasts look. It just looks so... You get it, right? It just looks weird. Like, these two don't look like the same animal. It's not just me, is it? Everybody is taken aback by the majesty and beauty of the lion legend beast, but Krager's like, oh, I can take him.
I'll show you what a real legend looks like, bitch!
And with that, Lavelle got the ending he wanted to his great story, and that brings our pilot for Chima to a close. Honestly, despite a lot of my criticisms, mainly with the story, I do think the pilot was fairly solid and kinda showed the potential that Chima did have. I think it shows the strengths of Chima, but honestly, quite a lot of its weaknesses too. I think the characters are pretty cool, and in my opinion, it kind of shows that Chima had a little more going for it than Ninjago. I'm not saying that Chima is better than Ninjago, we're not even close to there yet, but I'm just saying, judging by these two episodes and even comparing them to Ninjago's pilot episodes, I honestly think that Chima does have a more interesting world and characters behind it. Remember, we're talking about only the pilot of Ninjago. There wasn't much in that pilot. In fact, there wasn't even a world in Ninjago's pilot. There were only locations at best. And even then, the only location of note was the Fire Temple. But Chima, on the other hand, has a whole world and a more interesting premise. But now the only question is, did Chima actually deliver on its potential? Chima had a pretty interesting build-up to release. Shortly after Ninjago's finale, the first 2 episodes aired as a pilot for the series. Thankfully, they actually became a part of the show, unlike Ninjago's pilot episodes. Despite people's frustration with the series replacing Ninjago, I think there was some interest in the series by people, and it got pretty good ratings. According to Wikipedia, the first 2 episodes got 1.6 million viewers, which was more than Ninjago's first episode after the pilot, Rise of the Snakes, which got 1.19 million viewers, which was honestly pretty good, all things considered. But a lot of the episodes after that didn't really reach the numbers that Ninjago did, as some episodes of Ninjago managed to reach 2 million viewers, and even the final episode of Season 1 reached 3.34 million, which is pretty crazy. But Chima, while its first season stayed around 1 million throughout its first season, no episode reached 2 million at all, which is likely why LEGO didn't see as much of a future in it. But it's also really interesting because unlike Ninjago, Chima didn't really have a marketable finale, leading me to believe, in my opinion, that they had a lot more faith in Chima compared to Ninjago. And from the outset, I kinda get it. I think the brand of Chima just made for much more potential on the LEGO set side. As for Ninjago, you could kinda only make sets around a certain color of the ninja, but for Chima, basing every set around animals just made for way cooler designs. And yeah, the Ninjago spinners were cool, but I think the Speedors are actually way cooler, and I guess younger me agreed, because I never even got a Ninjago spinner ever. But I specifically remember asking for a Chima Speedor, as I just found it cool. Now let's address this. A lot of people call this series a Thundercats ripoff. I know absolutely nothing about Thundercats, so I don't know, but people have gone a step further and said this series was actually a retooling of a Thundercats theme that LEGO was developing with the reboot of Thundercats in 2011. I'm here to say that this is absolutely false, as Chima was in production around the same time as Ninjago, long before 2011. But Chima has had plenty of design decisions that led to how Chima looked. Chima wasn't originally planned the way we know it at first, as the design team tooled around with humans themed around animals rather than animal themed humans. But here you can see the designs for what they were originally planning around, with human faces with animal-like body parts. And this actually stayed with the design even when they decided to theme the series around animals, as we can see a few designs that had regular minifigure faces with helmets that make them look like their animal counterpart. I think some of these designs are pretty neat, but I kinda like where they ended up in the end. While the designs in the show can look pretty weird to some people, the minifigures themselves are very ambitious for what they are, and I think they look cool in their own right. The series was then announced in 2012, and we even got this really cute animation introducing all the animations and showing their personalities.
Oh, you're gonna tell them this is the story where you get all mushy with Krager?
What? We do not get mushy.
I'm just saying, I think they're maybe best friends in the closet if you catch my drift.
Nothing wrong with a little bromance.
I also found it kind of funny how they technically teased the series would be getting a season 2, or at the very least going on until 2014, as Razor teases Rogon that the Rhinos wouldn't be getting any LEGO sets until the first half of 2014.
My friend, the merchandise of which you speak, it will not be on shelves until first half 2014, yes?
Huh?
I don't get it.
After which the series got a ton more marketing in Lego Club magazine, which I actually did have around this time. I was actually sent a Chima Media Project Google Drive folder that has a ton of stuff in it, and with it came pictures of Lego Club magazine issues of Chima. Oh man, I remember this really cool teaser poster for the series, and then this cool cover for the January issue that opens up to all of these Lego sets. That's so cool. Anyway, once the pilots came and went, then came time for the full series. In March of 2013, there was a re-premiere of the first 2 episodes, and then the start of the brand new episodes. So let's see if Legends of Chima was able to keep up with the pilot, and let's see how they handled the full premiere of Season 1.
Lego animal expert Chase Blackstone here, on the trail of the legendary, but rather elusive Lego animals of Chima. That they walk upright, that they're smarter, and that they use technology. But they're no hoax, and here is the proof. That's a big fella. Adolescent, male.
So the first few episodes after the pilot are somewhat filler episodes. You know the whole monster of the week trope? Well, this is what I like to call the scheme of the week trope. Except episode 3, while kinda being a filler episode, also kinda isn't. Trust me, we ain't gonna go through every episode one at a time. I ain't got time for that, and I know you don't. But episode 3 is a little confusing because the point of the episode is Lavelle not wanting to share Chi with Cragger. Kinda justifiably so, might I add. Before we go on, however, this is the first episode we get to hear the theme song for Legends of Chima performed by Finley. And fellas, I'm sorry, I think this is better than the Weekend Whip. I mean it. The Weekend Whip is great, don't get me wrong, but that feels a little bit more like a pop song, while this is much more rock and roll coded, and that's just way more my style. Not only that, but the song was made by an actual band that makes songs for anything other than a Lego show. Take that, The Fold, who's probably folding paper wrappings over McDonald's hamburgers at this rate. This, I think you could pass off like an actual song. Man, it is a banger. Well, anyway, we gotta talk about the actual story of this episode now. So Cragger uses this to let Lavelle take the chi from them, proceeding to use it to rally the troops and get them ready to attack the lions. But like, they already did that? You already got the crocs to attack the lions once before, and there's no mention that the crocodiles are starting to doubt Cragger's judgment. So what's the point of riling them up? And I can't even say this is an excuse to finally give some motivation behind this war with the animals, because it doesn't really feel like Cragger tries to use this to poison the view of the lions outside of the crocodile tribe. At the end of the episode, Lavelle clearly doesn't want anyone else to know about him throwing the chi out, but it never comes back in the end until something completely unrelated happens in Season 2. Why not use this as a launching point to not only get the crocs riled up to Cragger's cause, but also make the wolves angry at the lions and actually feel endangered, or just not want the lions to be the only source of chi? That's the main problem with this show. I'm just not invested in this so-called war between the animals. I like the characters, I like the animals, but I just couldn't care less about this war that's going on. But it feels like the show desperately makes me want to, but the only reason I'm supposed to is because of Cragger's parents falling into the gorge, which maybe would be a decent reason if it wasn't for the fact that Cragger was the one who allowed that to happen by cutting the line. This isn't a war created out of a misunderstanding or a conflict of ideologies. It's a war caused by stupid actions and a seeking of power for no reason when everybody has equal power. The reason behind these two factions fighting is entirely one-sided because it's entirely Cragger's fault. So therefore, I don't feel bad for Cragger, or anyone else for that matter. But you know what? They actually do give me a reason later on in the series. Skipping ahead by like a lot, there's this weird black cloud that shows up that attacks Mount Kavora. All of the tribes, per the instruction of Lavelle, shoot at the cloud to fend it off. But once that happens, the falls of Kavora stop flowing, and nobody knows why. Cragger immediately blames Lavelle and puts the fault on him, thinking that their shooting at the Black Cloud stopped Mount Kavora, which causes the tribes to go against each other. Okay, see, this is investing. I'm interested now. It's even better because not everyone under Cragger's command completely agrees with Cragger, as Warris literally calls out that Cragger shot at the Black Cloud just like everybody else did, and he's just as guilty. Alright, see, this is what I wanted. This is great. I'm invested. This is drama. I like it. This is episode 18 of 20. There are only 2 episodes of this, and then everyone just makes up at the end. Nope, for most of this series, this fight only happens because of Krager's actions and a mind-controlling plant.
How come every time we talk, you wave some ugly plant in my face?
I love you, brother.
Now, if I feel bad for anyone, it's Cruller, Krager's sister. Yeah, sure, she's a mind-controlling manipulator, but once we learn her backstory, I kinda get it. So Krager and Cruller are twins. However, Cruller hatched out of her egg first, but Krager's egg fell out of the nest, and all of the attention was on him, so their parents didn't see Cruller. They thought Krager didn't make it, but thankfully he did hatch out of the egg, giving him the title Miracle Baby, meaning he got the title and he got the throne that was rightfully Kruller's. Honestly, if I were Cruller and I just happened to find a mind-controlling plant, I don't know, maybe I'd consider a little puppeteering at this rate. I don't know. There's a bunch I want to talk about with each of the characters and what I like about each animal tribe. So you know what? Let's do something really quick and fun. Let's do an official Legends of Chima animal tribes tier list. Rhinos, high C tier. They don't have much plot relevance. They don't do much. They're just rhinos, and I love them.
Hey, you two, break it up.
Whoa, don't be so rude. We're trying to fight here.
We only fight when we're happy. Right, Runko, buddy?
I love you, bro.
Eagles? We'll give another C. Eris is okay, she's just Lavelle's friend that's not Krager, and I think the rest of them aren't that interesting, though I did really like Eaglor, but I just wish we got to see more of him. He's known as a gadget bird, but I don't really see that. The rest of the Eagles are just all nerds because their whole spire is basically just a library. I don't even know why Cruller wanted to attack this place because it's just so boring.
That might be why.
That's fair.
Beginners! We're scholars, not fighters! Words are all we have!
Wolves? I'll give a B. I like their design, and weirdly enough, I feel like I know more wolf characters off the top of my head that actually have some distinct personalities. Warus steals the show. He can have his moments. Sometimes he can look and act scary, but other times he's just really funny. He just hates the lions because Lavelle beat him in a speedo race and exposed some of them. That's just really funny.
Members only. Check the board to see if you qualify.
But the only ones who can join are wolves.
And
Crocodiles, I think, are the best designed, but I don't think they have as many cool characters as a lot of the others. But Krager, Cruller, and Krug do make up a lot for it, so I don't know, I'm going A tier, I guess.
Almost got it, boss. Don't you worry.
Lions, I think I'm gonna have to give a very critical B just under the wolves. I think their design is a lot more phoned in compared to the rest. And to be honest, there is just not that many lion characters. There's Lavelle, Lagravis, Longtooth, and one spoiler character, which we can't talk about. I really like the royal family trope, so for that it's B, but just barely. Plus, I just love Lagravis' design and voice.
Does my tank have wings? It would appear so.
Ravens? S tier. Yes, I'm serious. I absolutely love the Ravens. I think their designs are fantastic. I love the silver and even sometimes gold beaks they give them. But not only that, they are just excellent businessmen. There's this one part where Skinnet the skunk is walking by and Razor gets nose plugs and raises the price the closer he gets.
nose plugs! Get your nose plugs!
Hey, you just tripled the price.
And the closer he gets, the higher we'll raise it. So buy now while they're on sale!
I love that business strategy. In fact, the closer we get to Chima being added to Dragons Rising, the more ads I put in this video. So you better watch this video fast so you can catch up on Chima lore before they get introduced and while this video is still watchable. They get into a huge battle and take over the Eagle Spire just because they can't grasp the concept of eagles being able to share everything. And I gotta be honest, I side with Razor on the fact that Eris keeps her diary in a library. Yes, I know none of the eagles would read something private, but like, what if they accidentally pick up the wrong book? You're just asking for your secrets to be thrown out there at that point. The bears are just worse rhinos. The rhinos are funny, if a little annoying. The bears' whole joke is that they sleep. A lot. That's the joke. Also, to wake them up, you whisper instead of yelling at them. Isn't that so hilarious? D tier. Beavers are fine. Their thing is that they just like to fix things. C. Gorillas, I feel, have the best generic design, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like they look the most like the animals they're trying to adapt. They don't add anything special like the ravens. Their trope is that they're tree huggers, which can lead to some funny side episodes, like in episode 3, where he takes out Warris trying to protect a flower growing out in the road, and then once a board hits the flower, that makes him think it can't grow in the road.
Got to save Flower. She's not safe in the middle of the road.
Now he realizes that.
I don't know. I'll give the gorillas like an A tier. I don't know. Well, anyway, that's the end of the tier list. Let's dig into some episodes. Oh, and we aren't going to go through each episode like we did before. I just want to power through these because, like I said, episodes 4 through 9 are somewhat filler episodes, but are fine. They're pretty weak episodes, but I feel like it does have necessary world building for what they are. I just think the scheme of the week are all over the place, which is a little funny. The first episode sees Cragger build a dam that transfers all the chi water to the crocodile swamp, which I don't give a damn about.
Lavelle, do you have to ruin everything I do?
No, I don't. Sometimes I let Eris ruin stuff too.
The second one sees this whole huge mission to steal golden chi by paying the ravens to steal it by taking Lavelle's speedor and then painting it a rock gold.
Hey, Lavelle. I think I have something in my eye. Oh, it's that horrible paint job.
And I really like this bit where I don't know if the Ravens were playing into this to get rid of Lavelle or not, but Lavelle and Eris tricked the Ravens into giving Lavelle the speedor back by giving them a box of nothing, which was really funny.
This is a box of nothing.
Exactly.
We don't have one of those. We don't? Because it's very hard to have nothing when you have everything.
Then we go from this to just attacking the Eagle Spire and literally pulling it down with the aid of the wolves. And this is why I love the Ravens, because this episode feels like it's just trying to be like an Eagle or a Croc focused episode. But nah, this is a Raven episode because they got a whole business out of just this one attack. So, okay, try to follow me here. The Crocs can't get their floating balloons to work, so Crueler hires the Ravens to steal the Mother Tooth, which is a sacred relic to them. That works. Lavelle and Eris make a deal with the Ravens to fly them up to Eagle Spire after the wolves explode their jet. Meanwhile, one of them goes first to stage an ambush with the wolves. Then, to top it all off, they almost attempt to steal the Mother Tooth and sell it back to the wolves.
Good. But how do we know you're not on the Lion's payroll, too?
We are, but only for air transport, not for secret ambush information.
And it's so funny because the only reason the Eagles aren't made into fried Eagle is only because they realize that Cragger is trying to pull down the entire Eagle Spire, which would kill all of their customers. So that causes them to return the Mother Tooth, and that foils Cragger's plan. This is the best episode out of these by far. I love it.
Who cares? I won't miss them. How can you say that? We're about to lose some of our best customers.
The 100-Year Moon, though, is a little boring. The episode is about, well, what else? 100-Year Moon. A night where the moon turns purple and that makes the wolves go crazy because they hate the color purple. I don't know. Crueler kidnaps Gluna to draw Lavelle and Gorzan out to be hunted by the wolves. Thankfully, the only wolf to find Gluna is Wonald, a wolf that only eats fruits and vegetables? Ah!
I'll say, I usually eat one basket of fruit, and today I ate 3!
That's not what I meant, Wonald.
The greatest race of all sees the chi pool create the biggest golden chi ever, and Cragger wants to make sure to win it in this race. So he gets the Dame de la Whoosh to enter the race and win the golden chi for him. I absolutely love Dame de la Whoosh. Even his name is awesome. The Dame de la Whoosh. And he's a peacock, and he doesn't even start with a P. That works into my working theory that he's secretly a dingo. But this makes Lavelle upset because Lavelle and Cragger used to love Dame de la Whoosh, but Cragger blows off Lavelle every time he mentions him. But thankfully, he doesn't forget.
So you do remember.
Remember what? All I remember is I am most certainly, forever and ever,
The better whoosh.
The final episode in this kind of format, Gorillas Gone Wild, is pretty much the most boring episode of this lot. Cragger cuts down a mellow flower, and that causes them to store the crocodile swamp. I don't really have a funny clip to play this time. It's just kind of meh. Finally, after all these episodes, there's a turning point where the series finally heads into a bit more serialization. Crueler, not happy with his brother's performance, gets the wolves to help steal all of the chi out of the Lion Temple. To do that, they cause chaos and ruckus throughout the speeder race, causing more division between the tribes. The best part of this episode, though, is getting introduced to Furtivo. Dumb kind of name aside, he's probably one of my favorite side characters, as he's very sneaky and causes chaos throughout the race in a matter of minutes, which is impressive and very funny. However, with that chaos, the wolves manage to sneak in and snatch up most of the chi, but Lavelle, Eris, and Rogan run in to try and stop them.
Hey, no one touches my love.
He means Eris, not me.
From here, like I said, the series goes a bit more serialized, though not too much. It just confuses me because the wolves are now the central villains. The only implication I can get for why they do this is because now that they are out of Krager's control, they want to be the top dogs, wolves, of Chima, but like, that's the only implication I get? This kind of comes out of nowhere. This does raise the stakes though, as because of this imbalance, the wolves taking all of the chi, it unbalances Chima, and any attempt to give chi to the other tribes just ends up as a chase for the wolves to steal more chi. Either way, after that, Crueler's persuader plants are rotting away and not growing fast enough, clearing Krager's head back up a bit.
I need a fresh plant.
Hear that? Sounds like my backstabbing sister wants to do some gardening.
Though, I guess Crueler doesn't even really need to be the one to use the persuader plant, because he just kind of winds up doing it himself.
Well, what are you two waiting for? That's a croc flare. We need to fight someone. Anyone.
This causes the Crocs to attack the wolves, and then the Crocs lose, getting chained up by them. Lavelle really wants to save them, but the other tribes have to agree to do so, especially with Krager hurting Chima just as much as the wolves. There's doubt among Legravis that the tribes will agree and rescue them. I would have liked them to explore this a little bit more, as it's just a side plot to the episode of Lavelle trying to find a way to save them, though I do like the episode. The wolves' attack is delayed as they have to repair their vehicles and gear, but because of that, they don't want an attack and have to treat the crocodiles well, or else the other tribes may move in. This causes Razor, once again, who sees a profit out of this, dresses up Furtivo to dress up as Shadowwind. I did not talk about Shadowwind at all. Okay, really quick, because this is totally off script. So basically, Shadowwind is this mysterious racer that comes up at the very end of the greatest race of all and wins the race, and he has this really cool design. I really like him. We'll talk about him more later because, again, I forgot to talk about him, so I didn't write anything in the script. Oop. But anyway, back to this disguise, which I don't know how Lavelle falls for, but either way, Warris smells them in the camp, and instead of taking them prisoner, he just lets Lavelle rescue them.
I'm hit! Mercy!
What? But I didn't even touch you.
Yes, you did! On the upswing!
Krager now... Krager.
I'm sorry, I'm delivery. No,
that's how
we're not moving just on the upswing.
Krager, now having a clear head and Crueler not having any more persuader plants, causes Krager to find this half raven, half eagle who's a mad scientist that can create chi just in a witch's bowl. And even though it does fully work, still powers them up and everything, the side effect is that it just turns everyone into chickens. Okay, yeah, I agree, that's bad, but like, it works. Why have they not been exploring this? Yeah, the regal scientists made the chi to turn them into a chicken, but can the side effect be removed or even just downplayed a bit? So who's to say we shouldn't let this mad scientist bird look into this more? Yeah, the chi from Kavora is the only natural source of chi, blah, blah, blah. But who's to say that there isn't a way to make synthetic chi, at least with fewer side effects? Either way, after the wolves take the chi, they conveniently decide that now is the best time to storm the Lion Temple.
This is a powerful wolf army. We need to be prepared for anything, and I mean anything.
1 minute later.
Are they behaving like birds?
Well, you did say to expect anything.
This greatly underpowers the wolves, and because Krager is under control, Chima is finally at peace. The animals decide to make a peace treaty to make it official so that no tribe can fight one another ever again, until who else? Crueler realizes that the seeds of the Persuader plant, when thrown into a fire, create some sort of fog of destiny. That's not a view of people's destiny, but rather what they desire it to be. This causes Cragger to go berserk, being persuaded by his destiny, which makes him evil. Again. Though this is also bad, because to release the members of the treaty, Lavelle had to steal an orb of golden chi to separate the fog of destiny. The punishment for this is exile, and even though Legravitz tries to let Lavelle loose on this since it was to save his friends, he feels he must follow the rules because he saw his destiny as a true leader. Heartfelt goodbyes later, very cheesy, and a Finley song that lasts for 10 seconds with a very sudden crossfade to shorten the song.
So far away from here.
See, I think this is a great episode in concept, but I can't help but think this was just a way to introduce flimsy drama into the show, as this does nothing for the overall story, because at the end of the episode, Legravitz just says he should come back. And so he does. I like that Lavelle does honor his exile, even though he was trying to do the right thing, but that's all this episode has, as after he rejoins the Lions at the end of the episode, it's never ever brought up again in any capacity. You could skip this episode and nothing would change, other than Cragger getting the Pledge of the Pack back so he has control over the wolves again, but still. I would have liked it if maybe the elders weren't against Lavelle's exile from the beginning. Legravitz doesn't have to agree, just the elders, so that you can still have the tender moment with his son. And then at the end, maybe either the Lions or the Eagles and Gorillas could be looking for Legravitz, who got kidnapped in this episode by the way, see Lavelle in danger, and break Lavelle's exile to save him. Then there could have been this tender moment where all the tribes stand up for Lavelle and convince both the elders and him that Chima needs him. And that shows that what he did was noble, and it's not right that he should have been in exile, and the tribes pardon him. I think that would have been really sweet and made for just such a better moment. But if you're not going to do that, then at least have his exile be a major component in the next episode, the Black Cloud. Why not use his exile to make his case better? Maybe use it to show that the Lions can do whatever they want. They broke the rules to pardon Lavelle out of his exile. What's stopping them from taking full control of all of the chi? I think that would have been great and not only made Cragger's argument more justified, but would have given Lavelle's exile more purpose. But because neither of these occurs, Lavelle being exiled serves absolutely no purpose whatsoever and kind of feels like a waste. I do like at the end of the episode where Legravitz, who's all, "We need our rules are important, rules, blah blah blah." At the end of the episode, he realizes that his rules aren't everything, and that while yes, without rules they are nothing, without Lavelle, they're even less.
Well, hey, you're the one who always says, without rules, we're nothing.
Yes, but without you, we are even less.
The final two episodes are getting ready for a war with the Crocs, who set out an all-out attack on the Lion Temple to get all the chi before the Lions can keep it all. And then Lloyd, no, wrong show. That is not in, that was a genuine mistake.
Oh no!
The final two episodes are getting ready for a war with the Crocs, who set out on an all-out attack on the Lion Temple to get all the chi before the Lions can keep it all to themselves. And then Lavelle dies?
No! Lavelle, stay with me! I messed up, but we can fix it!
No, but I'll admit it is a little sad, if it is a little too fast. I gotta say though, his crown falls off and breaks in half for dramatic effect, and he looks really weird without it. He looks bald. But this drama breaks Cragger out of his trance, and Cragger's finally good now. For real this time. Hopefully.
I'll be quiet until Cragger gets back. Then we'll figure out just how mean we should be to you.
Why don't we let them all go?
Huh? But that's not mean.
The only thing I don't think makes sense about this is that Legravitz knows that Lavelle is still alive and snuck out to meet with Shadowwind. And not only does that lessen the impact of this really awesome speech he had,
Use it well! Use it wisely! For Chima!
but it also just makes less sense, because if you knew Lavelle is coming, why would you use up the rest of your chi after that awesome speech? Those are your last orbs of chi, why are you using them? I don't understand why they didn't just keep Legravitz in the dark. Not only would it have been such a powerful moment, but it also just makes an awesome moment make less sense and more like a horrible military decision. Either way, Lavelle brings the crocodile legend beast with Crunkit, who tells them that the reason the legend beast aren't coming to restart Mount Kavora is because they have been captured by the crawlers, a species of scorpions, spiders, and bats that were brought to life by the chi that Lavelle dropped all the way back in episode 3. Well, at least something had a lasting impact in the show finally. Overall, that's the end of season 1. And despite the many problems I have with it, when I focus completely on Chima's strengths, I do think it can be great. There are just so many story elements that I either simply don't like or that I simply think are missed potential. But let's save that for the final verdict. Let's dive headfirst into Season 2 and see if Legends of Chima at all improves.
And wolves against just about everyone.
Yeah, about that. No hard feelings, right?
It's okay. He's with us. So depending on who you ask, Legends of Chima has 3 seasons, but many consider it to be just 2. These 2 seasons are split into 2 completely different storylines that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But a big reason why many consider both of these storylines one season is because the Outlands part lasts for only 6 episodes, and that's it. And to be honest, that is not enough. After the falls of Kavora dry up and Crunkit tells the animals of the legend beast, that means that each of our main characters must head to the Outlands and find the legend beast. I kinda like that we're focusing on the main characters from each tribe, and I really like the idea of seeing these characters learn to become friends after fighting. Nah, they don't do that last part though. If you had watched this season as your first, you would have no idea that these guys used to want to kill each other. They're all just fine working together, and that just feels wrong. Yes, I know these characters were childhood friends, but even with that, I don't think these characters can just suddenly work with each other with no problem. I mean, I guess there's a couple, like with Bladvik going to sleep with his bear legend beast is literally sitting on a seesaw waiting for him, and Warris starts to grow impatient waiting for his legend beast. But that's honestly the only thing I can think of other than something we'll get to later. Everything else is just sunshine and rainbows with these guys, just eating cookies around the table when literally 2 days ago when Krager literally almost killed Lavelle. I think it would have been far more interesting and also better if these characters had problems working with each other, even if it was rushed for 1 episode. But to add insult to injury, there is some conflict, but it's a completely manufactured conflict that it's really dumb and just straight up weird, like with, Renona, who turns out to be a potential love rival for Eris, as she says Rogon is very special to her. And the whole season, it's this whole dynamic, and not only is it very annoying, turns out she was Rogon's sister the whole time. From the creators of Ninjago. Okay, for like 1 episode, maybe this would be a whatever plotline, but for a full 5 episodes? This goes on until right after the end of these episodes. This is just freaking gross, man. Like, you egg on people on this ship only for it to turn out they're siblings? God knows LEGO fans really care about their ships. What if they really were shipping these 2? And now you just made it completely awkward. At least, I hope it was awkward for those people. If this had gone on for any longer and or it was a major plot line in the season like it was for the love triangle in Ninjago Rebooted, this would be worse than the love triangle, just for the principle of this being disgusting. Oh yeah, by the way, and this is how it gets revealed.
A well-executed egress, sister!
But then there's another bit at the tail end of the season where the gang finds out about Lavelle throwing the chi into the gorge and creating the crawlers. And while yes, Lavelle did do that, I find it weird that nobody even thinks to blame Krager when he literally gaslit Lavelle into doing it. But the funniest thing about it is when he runs off, he gets shot at and look at his face. But then also, you can see that the crawlers made a direct hit at Lavelle and he somehow survives. The rest of these episodes are okay, I guess. There was one moment I liked between Lavelle and Krager. As Krager, after rescuing Lavelle from the water, Lavelle and Krager reflect on that just a month ago, Krager would have just let him drown. Then he advises him that swimming isn't hard and is like friendship. Just let it flow and it'll take you where you want to go. That's cheesy as hell. And gay as hell. I also have to shove in my favorite clip in the entire show.
Impossible! We Ravens are crooks, but we are not bad guys, my friend.
Yosemite Sam's a lot of things. A hornswoggler, I'm cheap, and I steals things. But I am no thief!
But other than that, in terms of these characters, nothing really that interesting happens, as they're just going after the Legend Beast and also running into this previously exiled Levertus, who turns out to be the mysterious Shadow Wind I forgot to put in the script earlier, who after the crawlers showed up, had to get Golden Chi from the Speedor races to build himself a lair for protection. I'm surprised he's so good at Speedor racing though, because the guy is a bit not all up there, if you catch my drift. I do think that Levertus is actually one of the better written characters, as for some reason he seems to have some kind of parental-like dynamic with Krager, which I thought was excellent foreshadowing to his backstory. As for the reason for his exile was he was in love with Krunket, but Crominus used the Persuader plant to force him to steal Chi from the Sacred Pool to force him into exile.
He got the girl and the tribe. All I got was this scarf.
And because Krager is a descendant of Krunket, he kind of feels like the son that was stolen from him, which is why he has this very uncle-like type of affection for him, constantly teasing him with this running gag that totally doesn't get annoying.
Scared ya, huh? See how I did that? Split up your team? I can pick you off one at a time now, if I want to.
What?
Of course I don't want to. Or do I?
I'm not joking, this might be like the best writing in the entire series, as it's actually really subtle and requires some thought to actually get. It actually completely went over my head as a kid, and I didn't realize this until this rewatch. Good job, Chima. You did one thing right. The crawlers can have their moments though.
No one gets past us! Okay, no one else gets past us!
I really like the voice of the Scorpions. I can't imagine the strain on some of the VA's throats doing some of the voices, especially this guy.
King Scorp! Invaders! In our cave!
The bats are whatever, there's like no recognizable characters. Kind of the same with the spiders, except for the queen who cares so much about her ravishing beauty. She has a panic over losing one of her teeth. I guess the only thing to talk about is the Legend Beast. I still think they look really weird, but at least they look, I don't know, not as goofy. But I can't say that for the Lego sets based on these guys because, oh god, I think the Crocodile Legend Beast looks alright, but the Lion Legend Beast looks hilarious. Weirdly, they didn't make a set for all of them, even though this was their season. If I had to guess, they were probably going to save them for the Phoenix art, but we only got 5. The Crocodile and Lion Legend Beast, like I said, and the Gorilla, Wolf, and Eagle Beast. The Eagle Beast probably looks the worst out of all of these. The Lion Legend Beast looks bad, but in a goofy way, and therefore I like it. But the Eagle Legend Beast just looks like an amalgamation of Lego pieces. I think it would have been cool to get bigger sets based on these guys, as I could imagine sets kind of like the Chi figures, and they could have made them a bit more show accurate. But alas, we're stuck with this, and I can't tell if we're in the good timeline or not. Anyway, I'm out of things to talk about. The Outland segments of the show is so short, and there's basically nothing to talk about. I think it would have been great if it were just a little bit longer and focused on the leaders of these tribes rebuilding their relationship with each other rather than just being friends again right off the bat. Pun not intended. I don't think it's flat out terrible, like I said. I really like Levertus, and the moments we do get of the characters bonding are great, and the crawlers are decently cool villains, but as a whole, I feel like these episodes were a bit directionless. Let's hope for an improvement with our next segment of Season 2. Or Season 3 if you're based. Oh, and those episodes have fire and ice themes. You know, my favorite part is when they said, "It's blazing time," and they blazed all over the place.
Yes, blazing time!
Oh. So the Outland segment aired in March and April of 2014, and there was a hiatus until August of that same year, likely because of everyone affected by the release of Transformers Rise of the Darkspark in June. You see, Chima was already kinda middle of the road at this point. Yeah, I think some people really liked it, some really didn't. But I think like 90% of the people that did like Chima were just kind of watching it because Ninjago had ended. Legends of Chima was Ninjago fans' rebound. That meant if Ninjago were to hypothetically get rebooted, most Chima viewers would probably just drop it and go running back to Ninjago. Guess what happened?
Welcome to the future!
Ninjago,
Masters of Spinjitzu. All new special event. See it first. Wednesday, January 29th, 7.
Earlier in the year of 2014, Ninjago got rebooted after fan backlash of missing the series. While this was great for Ninjago fans, this was apocalyptic for Chima fans, as Chima was very unfairly up against Ninjago, and Chima was not gonna win this war, no matter how many dedicated Chima fans there were, including myself at the time. I was both a Ninjago fan and a Chima fan. I was a player. Heck, I was the weird one. I thought Chima was better than Ninjago. I was the dumb one. Heck, looking at the release dates, despite Ninjago rebooted release schedule being all over the place, some of the episodes were actually released around the same time as Chima episodes. Episodes 3 and 4 of Rebooted aired just 4 days before the finale of the Outland saga. Oh god, I had a thought. Did some people give up on Chima and miss out on the final episode, never figuring out that Renona was Rogon's sister? Ugh. Well, anyway, it was up to Season 3. Or the last segment of Season 2, but I'm gonna call it Season 3 just to make it easier, to prove Chima could go toe-to-toe with Ninjago. So, what bright idea did the writers come up with to save the Chima franchise?
That's right, sweetheart. Welcome to the Ice Age.
This was it. This was what was gonna save Chima. This was what was gonna make Chima look great right next to Ninjago Rebooted. This was gonna take Legends of Chima to the next level. I think Season 3 is both the best and worst of Chima. And to be honest, after writing the script, it's a lot worse, actually. But before we get to that, quick plot synopsis. So all is well in Chima. After the Legend Beast came and restored the Falls of Kavora, and thanks to Krager having a level head, hopefully, Chima is completely at peace. But Eris has these strange visions. She tries to warn the boys about it as she thinks there's more to these dreams, but the boys just won't listen to her and think she's going crazy. Krager especially, who keeps harassing her about having hot wings from the creators of Ninjago. But turns out these visions aren't just weird dreams, as after the events of the Outland segment, after Lavelle gives King Scorpion a chi orb, he gets frustrated and has an existential crisis, resenting the fact that they were brought to life, because if they weren't brought to life with the chi, they wouldn't know what it felt like to be alone and defeated. Kind of dark when you say it like that. Because of this, the King Scorpion, I do not remember his name, demands the crawlers to throw the chi down deeper into the cave so it can never be recovered. Little do they know that they are awakening an ancient tribe of hunters, consisting of animals from the Ice Age period. We've got saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, and vultures, sure. Oh, and for some reason, LEGO decided to change the theme song for Legends of Chima from Unleash the Power to Days of Glory, and I don't like it as much. Just the way it starts, it's just straight up not as cool as the previous, and the notes are just much more boring in my opinion. It's not bad, it's fine, but I really think them changing it from Unleash the Power was a downgrade in my opinion. The King of the Hunters, Sir Fangar, is the first to wake up, and he's not sure what to do with the chi orb they found until he just somehow falls onto it and it just happens to hit his chest. Okay. My question is though, if the hunters didn't know how to use chi orbs, why do they have harnesses? Like, it's been established that the harnesses are meant to insert chi into them and power themselves up, so why do they all have harnesses? Weird inconsistency aside, I do really like the hunters though, as since they're from the Ice Age, they're zombified versions of their animal type, and that's actually really freaking cool. The other saber-tooths just look really rugged. The mammoths don't really look that zombified, but I think the vultures, while not as cool as the saber-tooths, also look awesome. I just kind of wish they acted awesome. Sometimes they do. The hunters can have good scenes sometimes, but the show treats them more like bumbling idiots most of the time, and that includes Sir Fangar. I understand that they don't want to make these things too scary, you know, don't want to scare the kiddies, and I get it, but at least have a couple of them be a little scary. I think this really hurts the vultures, as I think the vultures look cool, but all of them are comic relief. Vultures are scary in real life. They're literally called vultures. They eat things and look terrifying. Despite complaining about this, I do think these hunters, even the vultures, can be funny. Sometimes. Though sometimes it feels like they don't know when to stop a joke. There was this one joke I liked, while a little juvenile and stupid. It had a pretty decent punchline. Basically, the other new tribe we get introduced to during this season, which I'm not going to say yet, we'll get to them, were their teachers back in their time. And so Sir Fangar says the obvious tropey line, "We're gonna teach them a lesson." And then one of the vultures goes, "What kind of lesson? An art class? As long as it's not a math class. I'm terrible at math." Kind of a dumb setup, but then...
I hope it's not a math class. I'm terrible at counting. Just ask my 3 friends here.
The joke probably doesn't even seem all that funny. My co-writer probably rolled her eyes reading this without looking at the scene. But like, I don't know, I got a chuckle out of it. I won't even lie.
I mean, I will say I kind of chuckled, no?
But then it goes for another second because it's just like...
Exactly! 1, 3, whatever. Who's counting? Not me, because I don't like math.
And it's like, oh, come on, you ruined it. That was one joke that made me laugh and you ruined it.
Yeah, no, see, at that point I rolled my eyes. You ruined it.
Well, either way, these hunters have one goal in mind, and that is since they were frozen in ice, they have the power of ice that follows them and gives them the power to freeze all of Chima, making Chima feel they're free! And so they start freezing all of Chima, yet for some reason, these animals have no idea what ice is.
We're stuck in this cold, white stuff.
Okay. I'm gonna have to keep my composure. I'm sorry, but like, this might be the dumbest thing I've ever watched. I can suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but I refuse to believe that these animals who are supposed to be intelligent don't know what ice is. So much so that they literally have Krug from the swamp frozen in ice, worried sick about what happened, and Legravis, who... And I'm not making this up, this is literally what happens. Legravis looks at the elders, stands up, has a little meeting with them that looks important, turns around, and says this.
The elders know of this substance. It is called ice, but it has not been seen in Chima in large quantities for centuries.
I am losing my mind. I can't believe I moved on so fast from that. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but like, I'm surprised I moved on so fast from that. Snow is like, like that's like, if they did this with snow, it'd be like, like,
that
but like
more sense.
Yeah, that would be, because like, but,
ice?
Oh, I know, it's
ice, baby.
Anyway, the animals try to fight off the hunters. They can't because their chi just kind of freezes because it's water against ice. And usually ice wins that battle because ice just turns water into, well, more ice. So that's not really a battle. That's more like a takeover.
All the latest lit Rizzy Riz clothes.
So Eris finds this book in the completely ridiculous section of the Eagle Spire library, and she links it up with her visions and hears the call of Kavora, and literally freezes the falls of Kavora so that Lavelle and Kragger can climb to the top. Why can't they just ride the Eagle Jet? Even if it's because of the force field around it and they have to climb, can't you just shortcut it at least or something? They have to climb the whole way up. Anyway, after they get up there and they're afraid they're gonna burst into flames as soon as they step on it.
Oh, come on. You fraidy pants don't believe that old rumor about bursting into flames up here, do you? That's just so ridiculous.
They finally meet the Phoenix, who are the anti-hunters, the fire in the fire versus ice theme of this season. And they have, fire chi. You serious? Fire chi?
Well, that's just lazy writing.
I kind of like the idea of fire chi, but like, it's just a lazy way to try and step things up and also make more toys. You're telling me the all-powerful life force of chi just comes in multiple flavors? So is the chi that we know of like the chi, or is it one in a trillion? Well, either way, I guess these Phoenix make it and there's no waterfall or anything, so I don't really know how it's made, and the show sure doesn't because it doesn't tell anyone. But now let's meet the Phoenix. I kind of like him, especially Fluminox. I really like his voice, but these guys are racist towards anything that's not a bird, and I mean Racist. I guess they have control over who or what can handle fire chi, as Fluminox gives fire chi to Eris, and she can take it just fine because she's a Skyborn. But as soon as Krager tries to take some and burns his fingers, to which Fluminox explains that, oh, the Groundborn can't use fire chi. No, not the filthy Groundborn, which is an actual in-universe slur said in a derogatory way towards anyone who can't fly. And yes, they very much do mean it like that.
Gotta get me some of that.
Never. Not for you, Groundborn.
But don't worry, they're not all racist. They can't be, because the Phoenix, of course, has Groundborn friends. In addition to the Phoenix, we also have tigers and cheetahs. Okay, sure. Hope you don't care for them, especially the cheetahs, because basically none of them matter. Again, remember, they're Groundborns. Who cares? Anyway, none of the cheetahs matter, and 99% of the tigers don't matter either because they're just guards. The only one that matters is Tormak. I actually really like Tormak. He's pretty cool, and his voice actor, Dave Petit, does an incredible job. I absolutely love him. Weirdly, I looked him up and he's not known for too much except for being a narrator on the Weather Channel's documentary show Highway Through Hell, which, as while my Mimon watch the Weather Channel more religiously than I do with Ninjago, I am not familiar with because it has the unholy HE double hockey stick word in it. Kinda weird how he got on a Lego show, but like I said, I absolutely love his performance and he's honestly one of the coolest characters in the show. Wish I could say that lasted, but we'll get to that later. There is one more Groundborn character that is a main character, which is this lion Tormak's daughter, who Lavelle has the hots for. Lyella. Oh, come on, you didn't even try! Lyella is just a complete plank of wood. She's a female lion, and that is her whole trait, and I don't want to be that guy, but I hate her design. I already didn't really care for the cube-like design of Tormak, but I don't know what it is, but the cube-like design of Lyella just looks awful. All right, hold on, let me... I'll just put a picture in the chat.
Oh, how bad is it? Why is her face so fat? I know you can't give her a mane, but Jesus Christ!
She only exists to be Lavelle's girlfriend, and I know I've been making jokes about Lavelle and Krager being gay, but unironically, they have way more chemistry than Lavelle and Lyella.
Flying buildings, love, my boy and a girl?
See, even his own father agrees with me.
That's awesome!
I know! You know the only amount of chemistry Lavelle and Lyella have? They don't like water. That's it.
No flooding, please, because I really hate to swim.
You hate to swim too?
I'm about to sound really woke here, but I really do feel like sometimes the writers at LEGO unintentionally create better gay couples than they do straight couples. I'm not saying that because I'm woke or whatever, because honestly, I don't think it's on purpose. As much as people get mad at Cole and Geo and Ninjago, I honestly don't think that they meant for Cole and Geo to be a couple. At first anyway. But I just feel like they unintentionally make better relationships between male characters. Meanwhile, they just try to manufacture straight couples for the sake of creating couples for romance and drama for people to get invested in. Because 99% of the time, every couple in both Ninjago and Chima just feel like love at first sight, which, while that alone is unrealistic and just plain boring, they just never actually develop the relationships they try to create. It's just like, wow, those two really are standing next to each other, huh? Heck, I think Eris and Rogon are better than these two, even though it comes completely out of nowhere, just because, like, I don't know, their personalities actually work, and even though it comes out of nowhere, at least it's subtle. But while we're talking about Eris, I want to talk about her a little more, because I hate how they wrote her this season. She has major main character syndrome in this season because of her visions. And while I feel she is slightly mistreated because LEGO doesn't know how to write women, at the beginning of the season, she feels jealous about Lavelle hanging out with Krager now that he's no longer evil, when it used to be her and Lavelle hanging out all the time. And while I get that, yeah, I understand that Eris might feel left out as she was used to their new relationship. At the same time, Eris knows better than anyone that Lavelle and Krager were the original homies, so it feels like she has no self-awareness that Lavelle wants to hang out with his best friend again, now that he's not trying to kill him. It feels like she's on some kind of weird power trip and wants to act like the mom of the group when that just doesn't feel like Eris.
Well, kids, you know, it wasn't all fun and glory.
Aw, come on. There was plenty of fun and glory, and...
Laval!
Admittedly, sure, Lavelle kinda acts like a doofus when trying to take care of Fluminox's son, Flinks, but she constantly is at his throat like, don't do this, Lavelle, don't do that, Lavelle, when that just really doesn't feel like Eris to me. And it just doesn't help that it's such an annoying attribute. But that's not it. Going back to talking about main character syndrome, while yes, I get that she's really worried about her visions, meanwhile everybody tries to shut them down because they don't really believe her, or I guess just don't want to worry about them, these visions she has feel like her only personality, and she'll be sure to tell you about it.
This light, I feel its pain. You must have some kind of connection to it. But you'll be fine. I should know. I've been having weird visions for weeks.
It's such a weird case because I feel like I both want to feel bad for Eris for how everyone around her writes her like an idiot, but I also feel like she was just written so poorly and annoying that it kind of cancels it out. So I really don't like her this season. I also am just not a fan of these episodes, as they all just kinda suck. It feels like the series escalated to serialization, kinda like Ninjago did, where the episode started out lighthearted and more slice-of-life storylines, but then escalates the stakes and just takes all of the situation seriously now that you know the characters. While this situation of Chima being plunged into an ice age feels serious, and they should focus on that situation, a lot of these episodes feel like they're regressing the series, even the episodes that do feel like they are trying to push it. I can't explain it, but the vibe of these episodes just feels so weird. Like the writers have absolutely no idea what they want to do until the last few episodes where things actually start happening. It feels like they want the series to be serialized, but the episodes feel fillerish. Weirdly, I feel like the look of the show changed a little bit, which doesn't help things. I don't know what it is about season 3, but the show feels a lot more saturated, and I gotta be honest, watching the episodes kind of physically hurt to watch because the colors felt stronger, which you can't tell by this footage because I have to turn up the camera on the footage to avoid copyright problems, but still, is it just me? I weirdly feel like the actual freezing of Chima doesn't really help with this issue, as the snow gives off this slight bluish hue, which, while it looks nice, kinda gives off a more colorful and kitty vibe. I honestly kinda wish they went in the opposite direction and made the icy areas of Chima look more desaturated. You know, kinda make the ice parts of Chima look colder and sadder. I feel like the issue isn't as prevalent when the show is set at night. The white areas of the snow just don't seem as bright, and thus the shots are much easier on the eyes and just look better. But like I said, it's not just the visuals, it's certain plot lines that are just so much more goofy. Let's kind of go through what I mean. So, like I said, the plot of this season of the show has a lot of meat. Like, a lot of things are going on. And that's not to mention the huge amount of lore going on with the story before the great story.
The story before the great story?
Huh? I mean, Legravis was already kind of questioning his belief in the great story when the crawlers stopped the falls of Mount Kavora. Imagine how he feels knowing that there is a story before the great story. That's gotta mess him up, right? Well, the episode where he learns about all this, and while he is very obviously trying to process it, instead of an episode focusing on him coming to grips that there's more to his great story that he realizes, instead, he's trying to come to the grips that he's not funny?
Their leader reminds me of you, but even more super serious. Like, he never laughs.
Am I really that super serious?
A wise decision, as usual, sir.
Yes, wisdom, but no wit.
And so the episode subplot is just trying to make Legravis laugh. And Longtooth doesn't even do anything all that funny. Just telling rudimentary jokes and putting bikinis on a lion statue. No, I didn't stutter.
Oh, so I guess rainbow wigs and bikinis are out too?
It's not even a bikini. Then there's another episode where Legravis gets taken from the hunters. Ooh, drama. Now, Lavelle has to be king and take his place. And instead of charging to get Legravis back, he has to be king for a day and settle these petty squabbles. I don't think the rescue of the King of the Lions would just be put on pause for the sake of rhinos wanting to put up a statue. But let's talk about the final episodes before the finale of the season, because let's talk about the worst thing about this season, which has to do with what I was talking about with Layella earlier. So, Sir Fangar, this zombified 1,000-year mammal, has his eyes set on Layella. Oh, and also Flinks, which is That's weird in and of itself, but he just wants him for a trophy. It's weird, but not as weird. He literally captures Liella and forces her into a marriage to make her his queen, which is just icky. And yeah, I know the thing, Liella is 1,000 years old, but I don't really know how the age difference works because Flinks was a baby 1,000 years ago and he's literally a kid, likely I'd say 11 at best. And Liella is obviously characterized in a teenager-esque phase like Lavelle, or else the show wouldn't try to pair them up. But even if Liella is 18, as some people speculate, that's around Lavelle's age. Even then, Sir Fangar is definitely characterized in his 50s. But even if you were to say that's not too weird, did you mishear me when I just said that Sir Fangar is literally a rotting old man zombie? Not only is the age difference icky at best, but it's just really creepy, that's all. And if that's not creepy to you, how about the fact that Fangar literally remembers Liella and tells his trophies that he fantasized him and Liella sharing a moment of romance when he burnt down her village, which implies he had the hots for her back then too, which was then she was definitely a teenager when Liella was small enough to be in Tormak's arms? No matter how you look at it, this whole thing is just completely gross, and I don't even know if they thought about how weird this was. Well, at least I hope they didn't. This was such a lazy damsel in distress scenario. At least this does lead to development on Tormak, but it's also really stupid. So Tormak, stricken with guilt and desperate to find Liella, is found by Sir Fangar and makes a deal with him that if he steals the artifact, which is a map to the Fire Wings, the only thing that could start the Great Illumination and fix all the Ice Age animals, he'll give back Liella. And I get what they're doing, showing that Tormak is so desperate that he'll betray the Phoenix and give them the only thing that can stop them. And to be fair, Tormak tries to get Liella back and keep the artifact, but when he can't do that, he just gives it up. But once the artifact gets far enough from the Crescent, it explodes and literally cooks Tormak, turning him into a panther. Honestly, that's really cool. I like this subplot, it's great. One problem, Sormak's dumb. Because yeah, of course it was a trick. You really thought that Sir Fangar would call off the wedding because of a giant disc? Maybe if it had Lego Island on it, that'd be one thing, but still! Lavelle rescues Liella and gets buried in the Gorge of Eternal Death, and Shadowwind makes an appearance. Whoa, he didn't die at the end of the Outlands, that's awesome. Or is it? Yeah, you remember when I said that whole "or did I" joke was getting a little old?
While since I've done any good crazy flying, or has it?
Yes, I'm very grateful. Or am I?
I don't get it.
Oh, you know, I was just talking like you. Or was I?
I don't talk like that. Or do I?
Good one. You almost had me there. Or did you?
But after making it to the top of Mount Kavora, they realized that the hunters were very busy while they were down in the gorge. They made an ice shield over the Phoenix outpost to keep the tribes from getting fire chi, and that causes almost the entire land of Chima to be frozen over. And they see a bright light coming from the Outlands, which is the fire of the artifact burning further inside Tormak, teasing the finale of the series. Not only the ending of this saga, but it's also the end of Chima as a whole. And I gotta be honest, the beginning of these last episodes is burned into my mind, as Fluminox gives a quick recap of the series, only focusing on the beginning and end of the season, which kind of shows how unimportant those other episodes are, but it does kind of hype up the end, and I absolutely love it. I'm hype. I'm pumped up. Let's go. These last two episodes aren't that great. Yeah, these episodes are absolutely choked. There is way too much going on for these two episodes to handle. The gang finds Tormak in the Outlands, who projects the map of the Fire Wings, and so it's up to them to find the Fire Wings. Meanwhile, the hunters actually make it to the Lion Temple, and they manage to hold themselves pretty well until Sir Fangar remembers that there's one more tribe he kept in the ice, the Ice Bears, which causes the Brown Bears to wake up and actually fight and go berserk, even having these mechs, which they explain they've always had but were just too tired to use them. Okay, yeah, sure, alright. The Fire Wings are absolutely shafted into these episodes. The first couple get a little time to shine, but after Eris literally flies really high and realizes that she needs to fly into the center, catch the Fire Wings, she then decides they all need to split up. She's the only one that can fly, and the one that she and Kragger finds requires flying around Spiral Mountain to screw into the ground. Wow, it's extremely convenient that the rest of the Fire Wings doesn't require being a Skyborn to access them. In fact, the other Fire Wings are extremely convenient to find. Sure, the first two require some work to get. The third Fire Wing just required destroying a bridge. In fact, Lavelle literally finds it by just letting Mungus destroy it. The fourth Fire Wing was hidden at the bottom of the crocodile swamp in a shell. How did they not find that before? The fifth Fire Wing was hidden in the Raven's junkyard. Where was it before? The sixth Fire Wing was hidden in a tree, and the seventh Fire Wing was at the bottom of the Rhino's quarry in an unbreakable rock, which conveniently, Tormac just happened to be there to break the rock, as it can only be broken with the power of the Phoenix. But the last eighth Fire Wing has gotta be really hard, right? And indeed, Eris has been there for a few hours and can't find it. Then Fluminox shows up in a vision and gives her a hint, and she realizes it's just in the Forever Rock behind an opening where anyone can clearly see it, or at least just bump into the rock and move it.
So literally she got stuck on a puzzle in a mobile game and said, give me a hint.
99% of people can't find the 8th Fire Wing. This sucked. This was extremely lame. Like, the actual fight at the Lion Temple was pretty alright, but even then, that was extremely rushed with the ice bears, but the Fire Wings plot was just extremely poorly executed. Well, apparently, there is an explanation for this. While this Quest for the Fire Wings arc was 2 episodes, initially, it was supposed to be 6. Yeah, that's a good sign. Tommy Andreasen revealed this on his Twitter back in 2021, about 6 years after the show ended, and we still don't know much, but apparently we were supposed to meet Flinx's mother, which I guess they decided against because they didn't want to imply that Fluminox canonically fucked. But whatever these episodes were supposed to have, it's clear that 2 episodes were just not enough to shove all of it together. They had to do all of it in just 2 episodes, and those animals better get those Fire Wings, and I don't care if it takes a montage. Some deleted scenes from these episodes were actually fully finished, but were cut to get these episodes down to 22 minutes. All of the Fire Wings had complete scenes with voice acting that were uploaded as webisodes, and there's even another one that kinda sets up the Ice Bears a little better, with the cheetahs realizing that this battle is eerily similar to a battle they had in the past, though none of those deleted scenes had a mention of Flinx's mother. Again, wanted to remove all implications. Oh, and by the way, while I was doing research for all that crap I just spouted, I want to make a mention that the Legends of Chima wiki is a little insane, because in the middle of the summary for this episode, the writer for this just put in all caps, "Let the Shatter Collector do this," and I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm really scared. It's time for the ending. With all of the Fire Wings found, all of the leaders meet up and Eris tells them what to do. And this is why I like Boris so much.
Simple, really. We just need to fly with our Fire Wings at supersonic speeds into the heart of Mount Kavora. Then we collide in the heart of Kavora and trigger the illumination.
How about a plan where we don't make a painful high-speed collision into a floating mountain?
Yet they all just put on the Fire Wings and do it. But I love the thought of them just not doing it, and Chima falls just because they couldn't be bothered to headbutt each other. Alas, the warriors make their way to the mountain, but the hunters manage to take the chi from the Lion Temple and raise the mountain to Kavora. And just like Boris, Flinx also just kind of calls it how it is.
Dad, why are you smiling?
Then it's revealed that the previous illumination, the one that was supposed to avoid these hunters from coming back and freezing them from their coldness, was not complete. And the reason for that was because Fluminox was supposed to be the 9th Phoenix that sparked it. But Fluminox heard Flinx crying while he was a baby and just didn't do it. And that's what caused the hunters to be frozen instead of cured. So all of this was Flinx's fault. Flinx is the villain of the story.
Oh, boo-hoo! Blame the little brat for everything.
Well, I guess he isn't now, because Lavelle and the rest fly into Mount Kavora and start the illumination. But then Fluminox tells Flinx that he has to be the 9th Phoenix and start the illumination. Sir Fangar doesn't want this, and yet pushes him towards the hole he's supposed to jump into. So then he just jumps right in. Yeah, I don't know if Sir Fangar is all that frozen, because I think his brain is cooked. Anyway, Flinx becomes a giant flame bird and then melts the ice, returning Chima to its unfrozen state, and even heals all the hunters, and the illumination just fixed everything because Skinnet smells good now. Crueler isn't evil, I guess, though she still isn't queen like she's supposed to be, but who cares about that? And Sir Fangar is good now, even though he started all of this, because nobody is actually evil, they're just cursed, I guess, and can just become good with a simple switch. Yeah, okay. The Phoenix can finally go to the sun where they were meant to resurrect, and Chima is once again at peace.
You see out there, Laval?
Lots of things. I see hope. I see the Legends of Chima.
Quick question. How do we get down from here?
You don't. This is where you die.
Yeah, I mean, there was never a continuation of Chima, so you could just headcanon that they just stay up there.
They just never came down.
Yeah. So here we are. We're finally at the end of this journey. After all of it, what did I think of Chima? Honestly, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. I think the story of Chima is absolute trash, especially Season 3. I remember liking Season 3 the most as a kid, and while I do think it does have the most going for it, I don't think I agree with that opinion anymore. It is a shame because I think Season 3 had a ton of potential, but a lot of the episodes just kinda sucked and were boring, and the broader story just lacked focus. I'd say Season 1 was probably the best, but it's like a 6 out of 10. The characters and world are what carry Chima. The story may be garbage and terrible, but the characters are what makes Chima a legend. Even though Kragger doesn't have a proper motivation or reason for fighting with Lavelle, I still love their relationship, and their lack of one. None of the Season 3 ones are good though, except maybe Tormac and Flinks, but the rest are absolute pieces of wood. Liella! And while they might have made Eris a completely annoying character, I still appreciate her in the other seasons and all the other characters that made Chima worth the rewatch. But I can see why people didn't like Chima that much. I mean, again, most people just viewed it as a replacement for Ninjago, and when Ninjago came back, that was a test of loyalty to Chima fans, and a lot of them did not live up to that loyalty. I think the world and even some of the characters are better than Ninjago, but again, the story is what kills it. Ninjago's stories might not be the best, even back then, but there was a structure to them, motivations, goals, all that jazz. And Chima, in my opinion, just did not have that. If I asked you why Garmadon is evil and what he does in Season 1 and 2 of Ninjago, everyone can pretty easily say what it is. Some might go into more detail, some might not, but everyone knows what he wanted. But Kragger, it's not a straightforward reason, and even if you wanted to say the most basic, it was for revenge for his parents being killed, that's a weak reason because he in fact did it. So that's why I think people didn't really vibe with Kragger as a villain, and thus didn't really vibe with Chima as a concept. And by the time there was an actual villain, it was too late. I do think Chima could work. Maybe a potential reboot could work if they just make the stories, good. But alas, due to declining sales and low ratings, the series was shelved. Who knows? Maybe it could have been good. I mean, it's not like they were going to try to introduce yet another type of chi that was going to be even more generic, like light chi or something like that, and also implying that there was going to be a dark chi as well for the villains. That sounds really stupid, doesn't it? Thank God that wasn't where it was going to go, right? Because that sounds stupid. Anyway, despite the very, very critical feelings I have towards Chima, I did really enjoy going back to it. Would I recommend it? Would you recommend it, Darian?
What do you think?
Honestly, if the characters at all interest you, like if you think the characters look and or sound cool, sure, but go in not expecting much of a story though. I do think they're still fun to be had, even if the story is trash, if you think the characters themselves are cool, but if the designs of the characters look cringe, then nah, I genuinely just don't really think it's a good show. Now, would I be excited if Chima characters show up in Dragons Rising? Absolutely. I think seeing the gang of Chima again would be really cool, and I think it would make a lot of Chima fans, all 4 of them, really happy. But I don't think they should put much focus on it, kinda like they've been doing with Moro, Cruncha, and Chopov. I don't know how that Chopa, I don't know. Let's just return to the world of Chima. You know, just visit it. We don't need a whole lore dump on what happened to it or anything like that. But the kid inside of me would just be really happy to see those animals again and even see the ninja interact with them. That'd be super cool. But that's it. You made it to the end. How you feeling? You watching this at night before your bed? Did you stay up watching this video? Well, go to bed, get some shut-eye. But before you do, what do you think about Legends of Chima? Do you think I was a little harsh on it? And what do you think about the potential of Legends of Chima showing up in Dragons Rising? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you really like this video, what other LEGO media should I cover next? Should I do Nexo Nights next? Maybe circle back and check out the Bionicle movies? Maybe I should see if Dreams is any good? Sorry, Dream. Let me know, and I'll be making a poll on my community tab shortly after this video's launch. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching this longer video, and I'll see you in the next one.
What happens next will become the greatest story of our time. The most powerful and profound of all, the Legends of Chima.